Unlearned Unlimited. Hey. Unlearned Unlimited. Yeah. Hey.
Hello, hi, my name is Dr. Sito Narcisse, the host of Unlearned Unlimited podcast. We want to welcome everyone to our podcast. Super excited about the what we're going to discuss today. The topic is we are not okay. And we'll talk about how things are impacting, whether it's teachers and others. But as you know, always our goal is to talk about what should we unlearn when we do things and what should we be unlimited about in the work that we're doing. And so today we're really excited. I got a really cool guest, Mr. Mohamed Koroma. He is here. He's actually a teacher on DC public schools, but also has been in other schools, not only in the public school system, but also in the charter school system. He's been in a lot of different places. So he has a lot of different lenses in the work today. So just a little bit of stuff around Mohamed, and Mohamed, I'm gonna let you say some stuff that what people don't know about you. But I'm gonna start off a little bit like what we know so far. As you're no stranger to the classroom. You've seen complexities and work with all type of children over a decade now. You've been teaching the second grade all the way through eighth grade. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
In English language arts, both in public and charter schools, in both spaces. You held a role like a teacher leader. You've been in innovation. You've been a grade level chair. You've done outstanding when kids have been in your school in terms of performance on state assessments. So you've seen success. It looked like you have a niche connecting with kids and getting them to learn. So they really gravitate to you, which is really great. Your leadership had you, I think you were actually the 2022 KIPP DC Board Award for Outstanding Educational Excellence Teacher of the Year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Somebody who's had like tremendous success. Yep. And then the other thing I think is really cool is that, you're young and energetic. So you help to bridge those gaps, understand where we are and where we're going. So as I always said, let's start off. Before I go into questions and stuff, I always want the guests that we had to tell us a little bit about themselves. Tell us something that we don't have on paper on you.
And as a teacher or just in life?
In life.
Oh man, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and then we moved to Maryland, and I met the wonderful people that connected us, the Roses, at Charles Herbert Flowers High School. Mrs. Rose was my ninth grade history teacher. And then Coach Rose ultimately was my health teacher and then my track coach.
Okay. So you ran track too?
Ran track, played football, and tried to find any way to go to school for free.
Now, where'd you go to college and all that stuff?
My first year was at Morgan State University, and then I transferred to UMBC.
Okay.
To go get they offered me a scholarship to run track there.
Oh, nice. University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Yep. Good school. Really good school. And you've been in education teaching kids for how many years now?
This is year 11.
Year 11. So you've seen some things over a decade.
Yes.
And what I always find interesting when I looked at your resume when we talked about it was that you have experiences in different settings as a teacher, and you also have been successful as a teacher. So you have a very different, unique lens of perspective on not only the teaching workforce, but also engaging with multiple different type of people. Is that right?
I think you guys give me a lot of credit. I should have added that I didn't get into education. Wasn't my space initially. That wasn't my goal. I went to college to study communications. Very loquacious guy. I got a lot of personality that I like to show. So I got into communications, and then when I was watching the Scandal series, I was like, male Olivia Pope, what kind of work would that be? And I was like, you know what? Let me get into public relations. I did that kind of work for a little while, and it just wasn't yielding any results. And I went back to the first thing that I wanted to be. I always wanted to be a teacher, and I always like kind of just threw it off. And, as life will have it, you pray, I don't want to bring religion into it, but like as a faithful person, I was praying. I was like, God, just clear the pathway. And I was ignoring the signs. Every sign that he was giving me was a job with children after school, or I had a friend, Madu Williams, that played in the NFL for a number of years, that Coach Rose coached at Duval. He let me lead his after school foundation, and after school work at a Prince George's County elementary school. And in doing that work, I was just keeping myself busy and not still running away from being a teacher. And I wish I would have started sooner. That's what I learned. Okay. Instead of waiting until 26 when they kicked me off my parents' insurance and to try to find a job, I should have did that.
Listen, we all go through that stage. You're getting kicked off the insurance eventually.
Life got real, and Obamacare got expensive. So I was like, you know what? It's time to go. It's time to go work in somebody's school and try to see if I can make this happen. So that's what led me into education. A couple of failed opportunities in PR and whatnot, but knowing that I've always attached myself to kids with my experience at Flowers. When I graduated from college, I came back to Flowers to help Coach Rose, to help Coach Brady, and to help the football team because I was a member of that team. So all my former coaches, I came back to help. And that attachment to kids and that work with kids for free at that, for free.
Right.
Well, let me say for a negative, because I was paying out of my pocket to get them. But I was not putting the pieces together. And that experience really helped me hone in on what it is that I need to do. Like I tell people all the time, I wish God would have gave me an engineer's brain instead of a heart. You know what I mean? So he ended up giving me a heart for people and knowing that there's a void here. And I'm somebody I have the skills and the aptitude to teach you how to read. So I just went for it. I ended up jumping the ship and moved to California on a whim and got in with a network over there after the charter school didn't open here the year that it was supposed to. Went out there and I learned and I came back. That's why I said I think you give me too much credit. I went out there. I didn't know how to teach. I went out there. They taught me how to teach. And I took my lumps, some 18-hour days, and figured it out, planning at home while eating dinner and falling asleep on the couch. And eventually my planning got up to par because I was at the #1 school in our network at Rocket Ship Spark in San Jose. And once I got up to par, the athlete, the competitor in me just came about. Once I, like Lethal Shooter says, I understand it now. Once I understood it, it was a matter of just, churning it out fast enough so I didn't feel swamped. And once I got comfortable around Thanksgiving time, I just let my personality show and then connected with the kids on a more and more basis. Like they started seeing me play basketball on the court with them. And I was out in San Jose with a largely Mexican and Filipino community. So I went out there and learned, I learned how to play soccer with them. I was the young hip coach teacher. I was the token black teacher at my school. So I'm from the East Coast. I'm pulling up to the school, blasting Meek Mill at the. That's like
you
the music.
Follow East Coast hip hop to him.
Come on, man. The music and the sports kind of like brought us together. And then because I was out there by myself, 3,000 miles away from everybody I love, I poured myself into the community there by just figuring out their schedules and going to go see them at their extracurricular activities. And from there, once I got buy-in from the parents. And, they saw that I ran a no-nonsense type classroom, but we could still have fun after the job was done. Yeah. I think it all came together, and that was the start of this journey. I brought my talents back to DC in 2016, the following year. And it was a different demographic, a little bit rougher, but, we made our way through it, and now we know how to handle it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, our podcast is always around what did you now that you got experience in life and things, what should you not have learned? We call it unlearn, right? Mm-hmm. And then what would you say is unlimited, right? So we all start with our first question all the time is, now that you've gone through life experience, you've been teaching and those things, what would you have said that you wish you unlearned or you did not learn, or something that it's not a part of your psyche now that you've got some experience behind you?
I think my parents being immigrants and we being a first generation, American, I think there was a lot of walls put up, a lot of boundaries put up because of my parents' fears.
Now, where's your parents? Where were your parents? You said they're immigrants. What country?
Sierra Leone in West Africa.
Yeah. Okay. Sierra Leone. Yeah.
So you know, as I got older, I realized that my parents only knew what they knew. They were
Okay.
here. My parents were here in survival mode, not here to thrive.
Yeah.
So a lot of and you know, like go back to the stereotype of having African parents. You have to be a lawyer, a doctor,
That's right.
all of that nature, and like not knowing that the personality I had, the connection that I had with people, and the respect that I showed people would turn around twofold and provide me opportunities later. So like I would tell people like don't have a fixed mindset about anything.
Yeah.
Like be like Bruce Lee said, be water. You know what I mean? Be like water. You know, like flow.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, learn. You have to learn. You have to. I have an appetite for learning, right? Like whether it may not be the standard learning anymore. I'm not sitting in the classroom anymore, like as a student. I don't know if I have that in me anymore, but I can, you know, because we're more than capable readers.
Yeah.
Can take some time once I unwind. I can indulge in things that I'm interested in. I can find things, you know, get deeper into research and find little nuance. Like I was telling somebody, I said we do it all the time to the point where I might as well just go get my doctorate because I've already worked on nuanced arguments for a specific thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the greatest lesson that I learned, you know, not to have a fixed mindset about anything, and that life is going to take you places that are uncharted for you. It doesn't mean that you're not prepared for it. It just means that you have to hunker down and be where your feet are at. Right. And
So like when you think about like your experience in education, what would you say is like the most common signs that educators are like starting to burn out in the work?
when you go to those meetings and everybody's on their phone, when you get to the school parking lot and there's 10 people sitting inside their cars 5 minutes before it's time for the kids to come upstairs.
Yeah.
When people are missing deadlines, right? When people are walking out of the building because they're so frustrated. You know, I think those are the signs that are the clearest to me. I think a lot of educators put a burden on themselves to present themselves a certain way because we have to be a certain way for our scholars, right?
Yeah.
And they don't take time for themselves. They don't advocate for themselves, or they don't feel like what they're advocating for is being heard. And I think that's when a lot of people get thrown off about education because they come in so pure-hearted, thinking that they're going to have a large impact, and you don't realize the hierarchy. You don't realize the systems that are already in place that need changing, right? But that's above our pay grade. And a lot of times we have these people walk into our classroom, they come observe for 2-3 minutes, and they leave you a notepad full of feedback, and it's like you couldn't see all that in 3 minutes, right? So you lose investment in the feedback, and now you don't have that tenacious energy for improving and getting better anymore. And I think that's where a lot of people start to go left.
So do you think right now, it's interesting you talked about that because like now you got all this technology stuff that's coming out, and you know, if you use people talk about how AI can help with efficiency, it helps stuff like most of the times when we hear burnout, it's sometimes because people have so much on their plate. Mm-hmm. So I guess what we're thinking about is like, do you think like the time change with all this stuff that's coming out, it can help make some changes to help with burnout for teachers?
I think that can, but I also see that the use of AI is like a crutch now, right? A lot of teachers are using the AI. They're not internalizing the whatever AI spits out at them.
Yeah.
They're not differentiating it for their caliber of scholars, right? And I think like because they have it and they start using it, they're no longer thinking from the passionate part of them where they wanted to see change. It's like they're just checking boxes. So I think it does eventually hurt them in the long run if your investment in your work is not great. If you see what I'm saying, right? I think you still have to have that you have to have that tenaciousness about you to teach and to get these kids across the finish line.
Yeah.
AI sometimes blurs those lines because they're like, you know what, I can check a box with this, and then the quality of the education starts to diminish, even though the AI has done the work for you because you're not as invested because you didn't have to lift those bricks.
So are you saying that the issue for burnout is not just workload; it's also intrinsic with internal with folks?
I would agree 100%. Like I have an argument all the time about what people think about charter schools versus public schools. Most public schools have a union, right? And I'm not against any union, but I see people manipulating the use of the union, right? For instance, I've worked in a school where teachers have told the principal like they didn't have a lesson plan and they weren't going to make one, or they felt like what the principal was asking them to produce was too much like a lesson plan, and that's against the union guidelines. Like as a principal in your building, you should be able to walk into any room, get a lesson, or get like the backwards plans from your teacher so that you as a principal can better serve them, right? You can give
Yeah.
in moment feedback if they're that type of teacher, or you can provide feedback later based off of it can be intentional, right? It can be to the source directly about what this is, and it doesn't have to be an indictment on your overall teaching. It could just be that this lesson wasn't the greatest, or but if I don't have that and I'm coming in for a short period of time, I don't have the lens. I don't know. I don't have a GPS as to how you're going to go teach, right? So in seeing that, I've seen how it's emboldened some people, but I've seen how it's crippled other people also because the they're still frustrated with their job, even though AI alleviates some of it, right? And AI alleviating it, they're not looking at that as a plus. They're looking at that as all right, that's one less thing off my plate, but I'm still not happy.
So let's talk a little bit more about that then. So we you know we touched a little bit about what the workload is and like what's the intrinsic part. So there's got to be something more behind the burnout. Like what's fueling that fire? So when you think about that, how much would you say if you had to look at it that burnout is about job expectations versus like the emotional labor that comes with teaching today?
I think the expectation is the same from year one to year done, right? Like you knew that coming in. And you know we serve as teachers, as educators, we serve a larger purpose than any number, any data point that we can have. We use data points to do what we need to do to affect what we're going to teach and how we're going to teach it and yada yada. But like it's far deeper than that. There has to be something in you that wants to do this work, right? And that's the intangible that can't be measured. Right, I find myself getting frustrated with coworkers at times because they don't see it how I see it. Right,
Okay.
being a foreign, being a first generation American, and knowing, like I have family members in Africa that are dying for the opportunity to move to America, right, to come get whatever education is like the education that people are complaining about here. They will come take that and run with it, right? So that I think that there's a juggling act here that has to be performed in order to get the best out of. And then also, there's a lot of variables in education. You're 1 to 25 to 30 kids most times. If you're at a school like mine, grateful to my school. We changed over to an 8A B-day schedule so that we can fit 12 to 15 kids per class, so we can give them small group instruction for the duration of the class period after the mini lesson.
Yeah.
Give them multiple at bats at working at whatever skill it is that we're working on at that time, so they can prove that they can be efficient on their exit tickets and whatnot. So we know how to move forward. But I think there's a juggling act there that has to be well played, or just like when you juggle and you miss something, it's going to fall, and the circus is over.
Do you think like I guess when you talk about like the juggling act, right? Do you feel like people feel like because they have like the lack of autonomy, trust, or is it just that they just want to do what they want to do on their own?
I think it's a little bit of everything. There is something to that they want to do a little bit. I think people have an idea of how they want to teach versus how their networks want them to teach, right? And that's a battle. That's a dance that you have to be able to choreograph. Let's say that, right? That's a dance that you have to be able to choreograph to meet the needs and the expectations of your superiors, but also be true to yourself and still service our children. Because at the end of the day, like I was telling somebody the other day, we don't think about it much because it's education, but education is a bottom line business. Education is a bottom line business. It's pretty clear cut. It's black and white. The numbers are the numbers, right? We know as educators, there's more to it than the numbers, right? So in that, I find like a lot of people find it hard to juggle all of that, right? Like I was talking to one of our younger teachers today, and she was talking about they want me to care about these kids, but like the kids are disrespectful and they're not doing anything to consequence them for the disrespect, right? And then when I lash out, I'm the bad person or I'm the bad guy, and I have a reprimand because, I mean, and people feel like their hands are tied behind their back. Right.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think they want to happen, right? When the kids are doing, they want to put them out. What do they want to do?
I think people they want steady and sustained consequences, so that we have to teach these young people that there are consequences for actions, because what it does is it, like, especially where I'm servicing right now, it emboldens them. Like I tell them all the time, you guys do this in here because you know you're protected, because you know that we're not going to do anything, right? It emboldens them, though, and you don't want them to be emboldened and take that out into their real world. And now you're in front of an adult performing or behaving in a certain manner or addressing them in a certain, or authority, let's say, you know, the authority outside is the police for them.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to address them in a certain way where the best outcome is that you go to jail for the day, right? Because we know how those go. They get in the back and forth. They get real mouthy. They get real chatty. And with the temperament of the space and the demographic that I service, it escalates really quickly.
Do you think it's teachers need more of a self-care to help them get through this, or what would you say?
I think everybody should. I think everybody should do something for themselves, right? Like I tell teachers basic things such as just like packing your lunch, making sure you have a consistent lunch, so you have some time to yourself during your lunchtime. Close your door. Do not let anybody interrupt your time. If you need, some people need quiet time. Some people need interaction. I'm one of the guys, I need interaction. I'd rather not sit in my class during lunch. I'll eat my lunch on the go and go crack jokes with somebody and keep it lively and remind myself that it doesn't have to be so stringent, right? But additionally, I do things such as like I'll go down to the gym during lunchtime. I'll go get some shots up, you know. I'm in front of the kids doing something that they typically do.
Yeah.
So building relationships, like accidentally, because I'm not there intentionally down there to build relationships. But if you come join me on the court, I'll teach you how to shoot. Or, you know, I got a bunch of boys that are in the 8th grade that are so unathletic. I've never seen it in my life. So, yeah, come here, let me show you how to shoot. Let me show you some technique, you know. So I do things like that. And after school, directly after school, I go straight to the gym. I go straight to the gym.
And that rejuvenates your soul in that process.
Listen, I go in there. I do something physical because I've been working on my mental all day. I tell my wife all the time, a lot of times I don't like making decisions outside of work because I have to make decisions for 75 kids every day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Like my capacity is tapped in. So I go to the gym. There's nothing mental there that I have to overcome. It's a physical thing. I go in there, I run, I lift weights, I do some old track exercises and stuff like that. It takes me back to the good old days. You know what I mean? I put on my clothes and I head home, and I'm a better person when I get home because I'm not ornery. I'm not where half the time after I leave the gym, I don't even have to discuss my day with my wife anymore.
Okay.
I can just come home, I can just deal with what's at home because what's happening at school doesn't impact me here anymore. I've taken care of it. So people have to find a routine that works for them outside of just going to happy hour. One is too expensive. 2 is unhealthy. 3, that ain't, you don't want to fall into that.
Well, all right. So let's shift a little bit to some solution space, right? So like when we think about solutions, right, we're going to go beyond the bubble bath and breathing exercise and all that stuff. What does real support look like? And so when you think about some actual changes that can actually prevent burnout before it starts, what would you say like are the top 3 things?
Things that can prevent burnout. Collaboration, right? Okay. I think working in teams collaboratively, whether content or whether in your content level or cross-disciplinary professional type deals. Like me and my social studies teacher, we work together a lot because they're doing a lot of the same things they would do in ELA. They're reading to comprehend, which is not a lot of nonfiction because it's historical and stuff, and then they're surmising or synthesizing what it is that they read to show their understanding, and then they're answering multiple choice questions. We turn around and we give them a writing prompt, right? We know that writing has been in the gutter for a little while because reading comprehension has been in the gutter, right? Fluency has been in the gutter, so it's a direct correlation. So just that collaborative work alone takes some of the burden off. You don't have to have all of the brain power, right? We can brainstorm together. That's one thing. Another thing for me is if teachers found a way to gamify things, right? Gamifying things takes a little bit of the pressure off. You're allowing the scholars to lift most of the weight, right?
So when you talk about gamifying, that means like making lessons like more games for kids to connect with, like project-based learning approaches.
Some kind of level of competitiveness amongst them, right? Because the kids are thirsty to show their ability in anything that they're doing.
And
right?
teachers could use technology to help with that, right? With AI and all that stuff now, right?
Absolutely. And that's the third one I was going to say is just technological advancements have been in place. Like we have all of these apps, the Chat GPT, you have Brisk, you know what I mean? You have all of these AI components that are on the laptop. Like I said earlier, it comes back to investment. The tools and the resource are there. You have to just take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
As much time as you used to take. Just because you're spending extra time after work doesn't mean it's the same amount of time. So that shouldn't deflate you anyway, right? That shouldn't deflate you. Like you should see that, okay, this is a little bit of help. This is going to save me 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And see the value in that. But you have to be of a certain level of investment to see that it's productive for you. But technology can go a long way. Like I've used AI a lot. I go in there, I'll type in exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And then I realize like I don't need everything that the AI technology gave me because I know certain things pedagogically in my class, right? That in my pedagogy that I can't or I'm not well versed in that. So I just take what I can, new ideas, and I blend it into what we're already doing to make kids see it a certain way or kids see it a different way. And then we engage in conversation about the differences so that they understand what was there. So like bringing it all back. But those three things I think will definitely help.
If a teacher listening right now is feeling on the edge, right? And what's one practice they can adopt to begin reclaiming their energy, would you say? Just one thing.
I tell people, set a time and don't negotiate with your time. Everybody needs something different, right?
Yeah.
Some people can come home, eat dinner, and get back on the laptop until they go to bed. Some people need that time to decompress.
Yeah.
Get back to their normal life because we can't. I tell people all the time, I'm no good to my scholars if my house isn't in order, right? I'm no good. So take the time, like set a time for how long you're going to work diligently. When the timer goes off, turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it off. Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. And that's like most jobs, right? We tell folks when they're like high stressful jobs, like, take some time to walk away and to problem solve, or just relax your mind. So
ease your mind.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. One thing we always do on the podcast is our conversations are always around education and culture, right? Like, what's the culture and how does that impact education? Not just only what happens in school, but like, could be culture, whether it's around things that happen around what kids listen to for music, or whether it's what society, social media is pushing out, or whether it's whatever it is. What are the things you think impacts teachers in terms of their investment in wanting to continue to teach, burnout, and like cultural things going on in our society? What's your thoughts on that?
In society?
that impact teachers in different ways? Like, how are you thinking about that? Or would you say like what happens outside doesn't impact teachers?
I find it hard to believe it doesn't. You can't balance your life. It's going to be hard to come in and manage this on top of that.
Yeah.
What the simplest way I put it is when I leave all I leave all my baggage at the door of the school from the day. I don't bring it home. I rarely want to discuss it, and I wake up the next day when I come back to school, I pick up the baggage right there and I walk it back upstairs and we try to, get it, hack away at it. But just, I think with this generation of teachers, I think that interpersonal relationships is what is the key, right? Yeah. Feeling valued. People are not going to want to work for you if they don't feel valued. People are not going to want to work for you if they, no matter what their investment is, if they don't feel valued, if they don't feel like they're being heard. I think a lot of teachers unfairly put a lot of onus on admin to make sure that there's accountability for scholars more so than necessary. You have to deal with certain things. You have, everything cannot be escalated up.
Yeah.
Everything cannot be escalated up. Like we got to ground ourselves back in why we do this work. This is an unforgiving job. This is something that we get value from later. Like it's not an immediate. When them kids come back 2-3 years later and they say, "Man, Coach or Mr. Koroma, you were right," and I always look at them like, "Why would I have led you astray?"
Yeah.
You're 14. I'm almost 40. I'm almost 3 times. Yeah. What are we talking about? You take 2 steps in a direction, I know what you're going to go do.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's interesting you say that because I've talked to a lot of teachers over the time, and sometimes you find people in 2 different places. One, they want instant gratification because they want to see what I do has an impact right now, and then there's others that understand like it's gonna be an impact that could be next year or 10 years from now, and you may not even see it, but it's an impact, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you talked about folks that influenced you in this process, right? And look where you are today, right? Teacher of the Year. You left, family come from Sierra Leone. You've been here in DC. You've been in San Jose, California. I know people don't even leave the state, right? Yeah. So it's like, so it's interesting, like, So I mean, I could totally relate and understand when you say that. Let me shift us a little bit, right? To like. I call it like the unlearning martyr of teacher mentality, right? So like part of the problem isn't just a system, right? But it's the story we tell about what it means to be a good teacher. So let's challenge that thought, right? Okay. So if we challenge that belief system around what we tell ourselves, right? Because sometimes I always think about empowerment, and what happens is the narrative you keep telling yourself that great teachers are supposed to sacrifice everything. When you think about teacher burnout and you think about things that can be unlimited, the possibilities are endless. What would those be in your mind?
What possibilities are endless? I mean, I think we need to tap into this AI space. And I think that we need to really sit and teach how to use it, what type of keywords we're using in the search to align it to what is necessary for the lesson and for the kids and for the skill, right? And go through that. I think that once people feel like it's okay to use it and they're not cheating, it'd be a greater benefit to it, right? I think there's still this idea that, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm getting away with doing something with AI, rather than using it and emboldening themselves and empowering themselves that, you know what, there's a value here. I don't have to do everything it says. I can take a piece, something I may not have thought about. Yeah. And I can apply that to my work and I can be incrementally better. And I can just keep repeating that and get better and better and better. Because sometimes with that burnout, what happens, your mind goes elsewhere. And you're not thinking as clearly as you need to. So getting that reassurance that, or it might be something that you thought of that you didn't think was such a good idea. And now you have the validation that you need in order to move forward appropriately. So that's one. Can you repeat the question to me again, please? So
Yeah. So what are the things that are unlimited that you think that teachers can think about or people can think about when it comes out to the teacher burnout? Like, what's the unlimited thing?
Unlimited.
Yeah. So, like, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities? I mean, you talked about, how people can manage their burnout. You talked about AI, how AI can help to get things off their plate. Anything else outside of that as we wrap up?
Just put yourself in like, I feel like there's always a group of teachers that's willing to support, and know that you're not alone in what you're doing. Know that you're not alone in what you think, right? I think that hearing other people's situations and seeing that you don't have it as bad as you absolutely see it.
Right.
Like, you always lean on each other. That's always been the crutch of the school in the first place, is us leaning on one another. I tell people all the time, this is why we have such great relationships with most of our coworkers. We spend the most time of the day with them.
Right.
Spend more time in the day with them than some people spend with their spouses.
Right.
So lean on them. I think that's unlimited. And leaning on them, not feeling like you're just nagging, unless you are nagging. If you know that you take me out here like that, don't do that to somebody. But like, if you need some encouragement, it's out there for you. It's out there for you. And know that your situation is not one in a million. There's more people out there that's dealing with the same thing. And as a collective, we can come together and we can come up with solutions that you may not have thought of, or we can pull from other people and other demographics in order to help what it is that we're doing on our side.
That's right. Well, Brother Mohamed, we appreciate you coming out. When I think about this stuff, what I always tell folks is like the truth to me is like, teachers can't pour from an empty cup. Oh. And people think, they should have fountains just waiting, right? They're humans as well. And you got to help them problem solve, to think about efficiencies, or like you talked about with the AI piece, like how to help to change their workloads and how to have support systems and conversations, So I think we got to kind of unlearn the idea that suffering is a part of the job, right? And this that whole narrative that they have. They got to have these particular conditions. You got to be just only resilient will solve it. I think those, in my experience, also what I've seen, like work in a lot of different districts, like those things got to go. And so when we begin to kind of unlearn that whole burnout culture, I think we kind of unlock some unlimited possibilities you talked about for like, how people can be more innovative, have more autonomy to do stuff. And I think that to me, that's kind of the crux of it. And then, the movement usually is, try to do things with a group of folks, right? Keeping around a lot of positive people to kind of move. And I would argue that positive mindset is also for any job you got. Cause I tell folks, it's not just in education, but whether you're an entrepreneur and if you get around folks that they're not in a space to trying to think about the possibilities, and all they do is talk about why it's not happening or the system, like you're never going to get out that cycle, right? Even though those things are going to be some realities, right? But you can figure it out. So, but I just want to say thank you so much, man. We appreciate you coming out. It was really good to hear from a former teacher of the year, someone who's been there for a while, a young guy who's gotten to see so many different things. I think it's going to be really helpful to our audience to kind of hear that. And so, until next time, man, stay tuned. Continue to unlearn some of these crazy things and challenge them. We would say the status quo and be unlimited. I appreciate you, Mohamed. Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right.